Happy Labor Day weekend, everybody. Hope you're having a safe one. I'm Nick Kypreos. Welcome to the Real Kyper at Noon show. Yes, coming off of 3 Game 7s in 27 and a half hours, and already into the conference final. We do know last night, Dallas got us underway with Vegas. What kind of game was it? What did you think of the game? Is it only natural that the energy was somewhat down coming off of an emotional Game 7? I actually tweeted out after the first, boy, could they have used 18,000 fans to get some juice going in this one? And yeah, I saw it. We saw some big hits in the hockey game, most often than not, led by the Dallas Stars. That's a good thing, I think, for Dallas fans. But we just did not see that type of sharpness, and maybe, just maybe, a lot of things kind of catching up to the players a little bit. And we're only at the halfway point. And I want to kind of get into this because our thumbnail today is Final Four. And there is a sense from Tampa Bay, from the Islanders, from Vegas, from Dallas that you're close. You're really close to the Stanley Cup. You look around and you see almost 90% of the league eliminated, except for you. And you've won 8 games, but there's still 8 more to go. But the sense is when you're in a conference final that you're closer than the 50% tells you in the number of wins that you need. And I went through it in 1989. For the first time in Washington Capitol history, we made it to a conference final. And there was a feel after closing out the second round that you want to reflect a little bit. And we saw that out of Brock Nelson for the New York Islanders, who, by the way, are going to their first conference final since 1993 to somewhat reflect. And Brock talked about the opportunity that you've waited your whole life to get to. And now there's only 4 teams. And we were that way in 1989, and we went through the same thing. We kind of partied a little bit in between, not to the point where I think stories got out, but there was a sense of major accomplishment for us in 1989, going to a conference final against the Boston Bruins. But my whole point in all of this is no matter how good you feel looking around and seeing all but 4 teams, 4 teams left can go to 3 teams rather quickly. And that's what happened to us. We were outscored in the first 2 games 8-3. And the next thing we knew, in less than, a week, we're out. We went from being a top 4 team left to being one of 18 teams on the outside looking in. Back then, there was only 21 teams. Yeah, don't send me messages now telling me that you weren't born when there was 21 teams left in the league. Okay? That'll really depress me. And Doug Maclean as well, who, by the way, kind of knew that feeling a little bit in 1996 with his Florida Panthers. They were a pretty good team in 1996. Were they the top team in the East? No. But they were probably a top 3 team, and they found themselves in a conference final for the first time, and then found themselves in a final. But Doug, is it easy to kind of get caught up a little bit? I know you guys didn't because you guys beat Pittsburgh out in a conference final. But for us, I think we let our guard down a little bit in the conference final with a feeling of accomplishment when you think you're close at a conference final. But my point in all of this is you're not that close.
My question is, what the hell kind of partying did you do? Like, come on. I just happened to be the coach in Baltimore when you guys were doing all that
Yes,
partying, by the way.
I know.
I remember following it. So anyway, look, you get to a conference final. It is pretty damn exciting. You know, you can imagine what Travis Green feels like this weekend after losing in 7 games, and Colorado's Bednar and losing in 7 games and not getting to the conference final. So it is accomplishment, but you're right. You're halfway there. And what happens when you get here? You start to look at your opposition and you say, yeah, we're here, but look what we're up against. Look who we're playing against. Look how good they are, but we're playing pretty well ourselves. And I'll never forget sitting there with Lindy Ruff and Dwayne Sutter when we went to the conference final, and we're doing our game plan to play against Pittsburgh with Lemieux, Yager, Goncher, Hatcher, everybody in Pittsburgh in their prime, and us saying, what are we up against here, and how are we going to stop these guys? So it is a great accomplishment getting to a conference final, but you're right. It's halfway mark.
How did you went against Mario Lemieux in his prime, and all the big boys in 1996. How did you prepare for that conference final, knowing that no one gave you a shot of winning the series?
I'll never forget the first meeting with the team. I said to them, our goal in this series is to make Mario and Yager hate the game of hockey. We want them to hate hockey. We want them to hate every shift. So we're going to drive them right around the bend. And I remember at that time there was a 7-Up and commercial saying, leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. And I said, we're going to leave a bitter, bitter taste in Mario and Yager's mouth after this series. So it was, our guys were on a mission, and they were so fired up. But look, for whatever reason, the job our players did in a 7-game series, I think Lemieux and Yager combined for 2 points in that 7-game series. Combined, they had 2 points. It's something like that. So our guys did an unbelievable job putting a bitter taste in their mouth. And I remember Lemieux coming up and shaking hands with me after we won the series. He came right over to the bench and shook hands. Mario did. And he said, hey, your guys played a heck of a series. Well, to beat that Pittsburgh Penguin team was an amazing accomplishment. But you're right. We were looking at it saying, oh, what are we up against here? The same as you guys. You get into a conference final is big, but nobody ever remembers who the finalists were in the conference final. They want to know who the Stanley Cup winner is.
And that's the bottom line now, and that's where we're basically at, is that you're right, conference final, who cares? It's gotten to the point now where Stanley Cup finalist, who cares? You are one of any other team, whether it was one of 20 for us in 1989, or what did you? Oh, you had 25 teams. 20. Were you up to 25 teams in 1996, Mac? But you're one of 98% losers out there. There's only one Stanley Cup champion. So in saying that, is there a sense now that Vegas could be as frustrated as Pittsburgh was playing against you guys, now that they're up against a defensive kind of shutdown team like Dallas? It was Demko that really pissed them off, even though they got over that hump. But now that frustration looked like it continued right into game one.
Yeah, and first of all, my fact checker just sent me a correction. It was Zubov playing for Pittsburgh, not Goncher. So I just wanted to correct that. So I know that people will be correcting it. So I'm lucky I have a fact checker here within my organization to keep me sharp when it comes to those things. But you know what? A lot
of drinking on the weekend.
I don't think Vegas will feel the same way about Dallas here at all, nor the Islanders against Tampa Bay, because if you remember, we were underdogs from the opening round. I don't see Dallas, Vegas, Islanders, or Tampa as anywhere. The underdogs are all gone. These are 4 legitimate teams. Did most
come on,
predict
Mac.
these?
Everybody's got Tampa and Vegas written on the final here.
Oh, they do. But I mean, the Islanders are not vast underdogs. If you recall, I had picked them every round so far. So if I'm picking them, they're not underdogs. You know what I mean? So
what have you picked for me lately? You had the Boston Bruins winning it right off the bat.
Yeah, I had Boston and Colorado in the final, but I had the Islanders beating Washington, did I not? I had them beating Philly, did I not?
Yes, you did.
No, okay, so I just want to make sure.
All right.
I don't know if I'm 500, but I'm sure as hell right on the Islanders. So anyway, and Vegas were a lot of people predicted. So what I'm saying is there's no big underdog in these finals like we were, and maybe a little bit like you guys in Washington were, although you guys had a hell of a team. And plus you had John Druce.
We had Druce on the loose.
Yeah,
but
you did.
Vegas doesn't have anybody on the loose. Their
Look,
forwards are snake bitten. Riley Smith and Marchessault, who have been a huge impact since the moment they arrived, being claimed off of the Florida Panthers. There's a sense of frustration there that I've never seen out of those two guys. They feel like they can't score in a soccer net right now.
Is this hard to believe? They haven't had a forward score in 4 games. The way this team has scored since they've come in the league, and they have not had a forward score a goal in the last 4 games. Now, I know Demko was a big part of that, but that would make you nervous. So Deboer last night, he tried to change his lines. I don't know. Right now, they can still come back and win this series, but they're up against the second best defensive team in the NHL in the regular season, in the Dallas Stars. You wouldn't have believed that when you watched them play Colorado, but then I say, well, did you watch Nathan MacKinnon play and how hard he is to contain? This is a different series. This is not Vancouver, who were terrific as youngsters, but this is a whole different ball game. And it'll be fun to watch. Can the goaltending of Hudobin match up with the goaltending in Vegas? For me, is a big question mark. One final thing, and I'm going to let you into your show. Hudobin come into these playoffs without winning ever a playoff game. 0 career playoff wins for Hudobin as a career backup. Can he get the job done against Leonard, Fleury, and company? That'll be very interesting to watch.
I want to talk a little bit too, because the one maybe Achilles heel that we saw out of Vegas at times against Vancouver was the Vegas blue line. And we all watch Shea Theodore, and I think we're all in agreement. We're seeing the skill level go to another place. But there are times as a group, Mac, where you kind of question sometimes their work defensively. And now I look at the Dallas blue line, and do we not give Klingberg, Miro Heiskanen, Alexiak, Lindell the edge here? Not only a little bit, maybe a lot over Shea Theodore and company here?
Well, I'll tell you what would bother me a little bit is in the last few games, Martinez game dropped off. Theodore is up ice all the time. He's going all the time. He's a great young defenseman in the league. Martinez back, but I saw Martinez game slip in the last couple of games, 2 or 3 games against Vancouver. They need Martinez to be at his game. Is he getting tired? Is he exhausted from covering up? But then you go McNabb, Schmidt, okay, and then you go White Cloud and Holden. It's not close for me.
Yeah.
Goaltending today, you'd have to say goes to Vegas. Defense, you'd have to say goes to Dallas. And up front, to me, it's a wash.
Well,
both teams are equally as talented.
I think Vegas is a little deeper up front.
Well, they are, but Nick, have you noticed Stone in the last?
No,
have you noticed Stone, Pacioretty? I mean, these guys have got to pick their game up big time compared to what I watched the last few games in that Vancouver series. Yeah, they're a good group of forwards. There's no doubt about that. But they haven't played that well as a group, or at least they haven't finished as well as they need to finish, and that will not be easy. So, this is going to be, I think this has the makings of being a really heavy hockey series. This to me is real playoff hockey, and I think we're going to see it with these two teams.
I don't suggest for one second that Ryan Reeves in that lineup would have changed anything last night. The energy just was not there out of Vegas. So we assume that they're going to regroup with an energized team, but also an energized Ryan Reeves, who can go out there and create a physical wave that we've seldom seen out of fourth line forwards in quite some time here. So that should come in and change the dynamic a little bit for Vegas in game 2.
Well, you know what? It's really interesting. They're looking for energy from Ryan Reeves, and Dallas are looking for energy from the two kids, the two European kids in Kurvanen, and also Gunnar.
Kiviranta.
Kiviranta
and it's not Joel.
Jervanen. I mean, seriously, how good were those two kids?
It's Yoel.
The story, the best. Cogliano was an all-star in the last 2 games because they scratched him to keep these two kids in the lineup. So for me, those two kids are having a big impact on this Dallas team, the way they can score. And
but if they drop off the face of the earth, no one's going to be surprised, right? But
no.
you don't know what you're getting. You're on house money right now.
Yeah, so
Vegas house money.
The fact for you to say that Reeves is going to scare the Dallas Stars,
I didn't say that.
I'm sorry. I like the two kids more than I like Reeves scaring the Dallas Stars right now. If the Dallas Stars are intimidated by Ryan Reeves, then they don't deserve to be in the Final Four.
Yeah, I would love.
That's with all due respect.
You know what
to
I would
Ryan
love?
Reeves.
I'd like Doug Maclean to go back and try to scoop up a puck behind the goal line and have Ryan Reeves come after him. That's what I'd like to see.
I didn't say he couldn't intimidate me. I agree he can intimidate me.
Yes, okay.
If he walked in here in his street clothes, he would intimidate me. He doesn't have to hit me behind the net.
Just a visual I wanted to put out there for our Real Kyper at Noon fans watching today. Doug Maclean retrieving a puck with Ryan Reeves coming on hard on the forecheck. Let's just all close our eyes and picture that. Yeah, that puts a smile out of my face.
Uh-oh. I lost you.
What?
I think that Ryan came into Doug's studio and turned his camera off real quick. We might have to change it to Real Reeves at noon or something if he comes messing with us.
Is the camera on now?
Yeah, we're all good to go. It was just a split second.
Okay.
Are we good? Are we good?
Something popped up in my screen. I had to get rid of it there. How come I'm a midget on the screen now? I'm in a little tiny box. How do I get that bigger?
Ask Ryan. I think he might give you some advice. You're all good to go on my end. You're looking as good as usual.
Let's focus now on Peter Deboer, because we made a big deal out of it, as many should, over this whole thing about who he starts, who's his number one goalie. We saw a tough decision. Maybe it wasn't a tough decision. It didn't appear to be a tough decision for Peter Deboer to put in Leonard in Game 7. Mac, at the end of the day, who could argue with Peter Deboer? Robin Leonard came up with the biggest save of the bubble. Can we call it the save of the bubble when the 2-on-1 with Brock Besser and the glove save? So, well, it could have easily been a decision if Vegas lost. That would have been a huge controversy and something that we would have probably talked for the first half an hour today on. Ends up being a bit of a footnote in terms of Leonard still being that guy.
But it's
hold
not
on,
over yet.
No, I know it's not over. I know it's not over. Yet we heard Peter Deboer say, I went with the goalie that gave me the best opportunity to win this game. And in Game 1, it's Fleury, not Leonard. We assume he wants to rest him. We assume it was 3 games in 4 nights.
I know.
But in saying that, we still saw Fleury come up with a pretty heroic effort without any goals.
Like Peter, I'm telling you, to be quite honest, when I saw Fleury's antics in the hallway prior to the game, going on the ice, I was shocked that he was playing. And I probably should be, because of what you said, the 3 games in 4 nights, the compressed schedule in that Vancouver series. And you know what? They trust him, obviously. And that was a big, I know he didn't win the game, but he was their best player by a margin. And Deboer talked about that post-game, that he was our best player. And I went with him because he gave us the best chance of winning. So he knows better than we do how tired Leonard probably is. And it gives Leonard a big-time break. Big difference from a lot of teams that wouldn't go with their backup to start a series. They didn't win, but with Fleury's performance, you're very comfortable to come back with him in this series. But if they do, they're in big trouble. That means they're losing and they're in big trouble in this series.
You buy into Peter Deboer's job is just to win, and no matter how you get there, that's the bottom line. And you assume under these circumstances with Fleury and Leonard, and what the future lies for Vegas with a frontline goaltender, that if they win the Stanley Cup, it won't matter. It won't matter what was behind you, and it won't matter even losing one or two of them next year, because Peter's job has to be to win the Stanley Cup, and only with the Stanley Cup. It's not about the past, or it's not about the future. It's about the present. There's a ton of pressure on him, more so than I can recall any other coach with their goalies.
They're not underdogs. Are they favorites? Maybe. They're one of a couple of favorites still in the mix. If they lose the series, if they lose this series,
or the final for that matter, Mac, or the final for that matter,
this Fleury situation is not going to go away. So I don't envy him to be in this position. It very seldom happens in the NHL that you take your number one guy, a guy that's helped build your franchise, and put him in this role. It doesn't happen very often. Give Peter credit for doing it. It hasn't been easy. But if he doesn't win, it comes back to bite you a little bit. So we'll see. And Peter at this stage in his career, he's been around the block. He's had to make some tough decisions. Maybe this is one of his toughest. We'll see how it all shakes out. I know one thing. I guarantee you one thing. Alan Walsh is not his friend anymore. I know that.
Does Alan have a lot of friends when it comes to owners or general managers? Does Alan really give a flying you know what?
His best friend in the world, I think, is John Shannon.
John has a lot of friends, though.
I had to take a drink of water. Did you mute me there?
No, I think the listeners have. But keep the comments coming, everybody, and sure appreciate you guys coming out and visiting us here on Labor Day weekend. The games are continuing. We're continuing here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. And 8 p.m. tonight, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders get their conference final going as well. Can the Islanders do to Tampa what Dallas did to Vegas and find ways to shut them down, frustrate them, take away their energy?
The Islanders are going to be an interesting team to watch here in this round against a Tampa Bay Lightning team that, if they don't win the Stanley Cup this year, it's going to get a little bit tougher every year with salary cap issues, challenges moving forward with trying to keep everybody on the payroll. I would not want to be playing the Islanders. I'm telling you that right now. But I'll tell you what is a key for me for the Tampa Bay Lightning. What they went through in the first round with the Columbus Blue Jackets, where they changed their philosophy saying, we are going to protect the house. We're going to protect the defensive side and not risk going crazy on the offense. And that was drilled into their heads for as long as it's been since they lost last year to Columbus. Then they did a good job against the Bruins. Yeah, Tuukka Rask left the ship. That helped. No doubt about that. But Tampa's playing a little different style right now. Can they withstand the smothering defensive play of the New York Islanders? Well, they did against Columbus, and they did against Boston. Boston's a tough team to play against. So are they a little better prepared? Yeah, I would say because of what's gone on, especially the way they get through the Columbus series, they're better prepared to meet this defensive juggernaut of the New York Islanders. What they may not be prepared for is how good the Islanders are offensively and how deep the Islanders are offensively.
Well, that included Julien Brisebois going out there and adding depth from probably anywhere between the 8th forward position to the 12th. And Anthony Cirella can play every which way. Goudreau can play every which way. Coleman can play every which way. They've got talent, Mac. They got speed, they got grit, and they got the ability to grind it out, which Tampa hasn't necessarily had in past performances during the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. And they've got Braden Point, who is a superstar. And he's the straw here. He stirs the drink, this guy, for this hockey team, the way he performs. But I'll tell you what else. The Gord line with Goudreau and Coleman has been one of their best lines in the playoffs. Now you're going against a third line with the Islanders with Brassard, Pajot, and Belcole. For the most part, they mix that spot up quite a bit. That's a good third line. We heard Vigneault talk about it post Philly, that how many third lines have a Pajot and a Brassard and whoever? Well, Tampa Bay do, and they played real well. So that's going to be an intriguing matchup in that 3-hole between these two teams. It's a real intriguing matchup. We talk about the forwards. Do Tampa have an edge with Kucherov, Point, Cirella, Palat? Yeah, they probably have an edge, but not a big one for me.
Well,
a minimal edge there.
And how healthy is Kucherov?
Well, that's a big question. How healthy is Kucherov?
They deemed him fit to play in game 1. We'll probably know in the first 10 minutes whether or not he's got a comfort zone at all. Interesting on Steven Stamkos. We talked about Stamkos last week, how he's itching to get closer to playing. I also know that I think at some point, Mac, he did leave the bubble in Toronto for personal reasons. So there's some things going on off the ice for Stamkos as well, besides dealing with an injury as well. I'm wondering, by Cooper coming out and announcing that Stamkos will not be available in this series, that he did it for no other reason than to kind of alleviate that type of day-to-day pressure, not only maybe on Stamkos, but also his club as well. And by fact, if there is a chance that he can play, then there's always a bonus of getting him in the later rounds. But what were your thoughts about Stamkos being announced that he's not fit to play in the series at all?
Well, my sources tell me that Stamkos will play in the finals if they get there. That he will play in the finals.
Yeah, and that's what we hear the same thing.
Is it game 6, game 7? We don't know, but I keep hearing it's going to be the finals that he'll be ready to play. I don't know about personal off-ice issues. I have no idea what that is. But if they get him back, that'll be a nice plus for them, because we know what he means to this team. So to me, Nick, the forward group, I don't see with Barzal the way he's playing, with Eberle the way he's playing, with Lee, with Nelson, Beauvillier. This is a pretty good Islander group here, and I don't think they're the least bit intimidated by the offense of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But it's going to be a really great test. No denying that. But to me, do Tampa have a slight edge? They would if Stamkos was healthy, slight edge. But I don't see a big edge there. I really don't.
You don't see one in net? There's no question who Tampa Bay is going to go with in net. But there is a question on who's the number 1 goalie for the Islanders, Mac.
I see the biggest edge in goal. I see
Vasilevsky's.
Tampa goal.
This guy could play. This guy could play 6 games in a row, night after night. He's not coming out of the lineup unless he absolutely poops the bed. But I see
their goaltending being the biggest difference in the series. We know Grice came in and did a nice job. We know they have the goalie whisperer and Mitch Korn, who's if he's not the smartest guy in hockey, he's in the top 5. And
he was your guy for a while, wasn't he?
Varlamov. I mean, we've got Varlamov has been good. He's been average. So to me, that's the biggest difference in this series. Vasilevsky, to me, is a difference maker in goal. That's why he's going to $9.5 million next year. He is a thoroughbred. This is a guy that is so focused. So to me, then you look at the defense, and I got to give the edge to Tampa Bay's defense because of Hedman. I know Pellick's terrific. Pulak's been good. Mayfield and Taves have been good. Green has been a great pickup. But to me, Hedman takes Tampa to a whole nother level. And that's before we even talk McDonough, Sergachev, Shattenkirk experience on the back end, you know?
Yeah. And if Ryan McDonough starts feeling better again and starts feeling like he's got a big enough break here between the series to start playing like he can, I think that's an amazing 1-2 punch with Hedman. That'll be tough for the Islanders.
Yeah, so to me, you go, it's a wash up front. I like the depth of the Islanders, the way they're playing. I like the Islanders' defense, but I like Tampa's better. I like the Islanders' goaltending, but I like Tampa's goaltending better. I'm giving the edge to Trotz in coaching. Trotz, to me, is the best coach in the NHL right now for what he's accomplished, what he's done, and their defensive game is better than Tampa's defensive game. That's what's given them the edge, I guess, a little bit in forward, a little bit in defense, and a lot in goal. I'm giving the defensive coaching side to the Islanders. So we got a series.
Now, you're the only one on this show that can claim a general manager's union card. I can't. So I ask you this. Is there a small part of Lou Lamoriello leaving Toronto going, I'm in the conference final, you're not. Suck on that, Toronto.
Lou would never say it because he's too much of a gentleman in front of the camera. But I'm telling you, what he would be saying is, I tried to talk Johnny T. Tavares into staying with us. I tried to talk him into it. He went to the Leafs. We have won 4 series since Johnny T left, and Johnny T is 0 for 4 in Toronto in series. That's what Lou is. If he's not saying it to his close friends, he's certainly thinking about it. And I can't say I blame him.
You, on the other hand, as a general manager, you take the high road. You would think it all day long, but you would never say that to. Well, there'd be a few people you would say that to. There'd
be a few people who get sick of me saying it to them.
Okay, let's recap a little bit on teams that came close, but did not get into the Final Four. And let's start.
By the way,
yeah,
I just want to correct something. That wasn't a shot at Johnny T or the Leafs, by the way. I was just stating facts. That's all.
You don't even have your Leaf jersey up on the wall. That's how much of a shot it was.
It wasn't a shot. It was just facts, you know. I've come today with a lot of facts, you know.
Let's let all our comments on this show decide whether or not if Doug Maclean gave the Leafs a shot or not. But
one quiet day, Labor Day. We know it's quiet. We know it's quiet.
One team you cannot give a shot to is the Vancouver Canucks. Could they be the only team that truly is leaving the bubble feeling good about themselves? Is there another team? Is there another team that left the bubble that could feel like they've made as much progress? I can't see it.
No, I would say that Vancouver's leaving the bubble happier than any other team because they did accomplish a lot. There's no denying that. Jim Benning is leaving the bubble troubled because he's worried about Markstrom, Demko. Here's the problem with Jimmy Benning's biggest problem. If he decides and he agrees with you and doesn't re-sign Markstrom, which I don't disagree with you on this.
Well, I got more feelings on that.
He is going to sign. I will put money. He will sign with one of 2 teams. Calgary or Edmonton.
Oh, I like Detroit, Matt.
What about Calgary or Edmonton right in his own division? What if Markstrom signs with one of those 2 teams in his own division? That and Demko comes in as a kid. Now, look, he's got the expansion problem a year from now. Do you let Markstrom go and get his big deal and play for him? But what if he comes right back in his own division with those two teams? That would drive me batty. So it's Jimmy Benning's got a lot of things. He's got to worry about Pettersson and Hughes. He's got to get Tanev signed. Tanev played terrific hockey. He's a Canuck through and through. So they're leaving excited, the players. Green and Benning have got they're a little more concerned.
Jimmy Benning's got, we talk about pressure, about Peter Deboer getting the right goalie and constantly. What about the pressure on Jim Benning not to kind of screw this up?
Look, as I used to say to David Poyle, David, how come with the losses my hair goes gray and yours goes brown? With Jimmy Benning, we know how brown his hair is at times. Does it go gray with all these worries? That's what I question. Like, people are giving me shots about my gray hair on the white wall, that it's clashes. What about Benning's? His could go gray conceivably with the headaches he's challenges. And I love Jimmy Benning, and he's done a hell of a job.
Just get it over with too. Go brown for us. Go brown.
I may.
We could do it. I think technology now on the internet can have your hair brown like in 30 seconds. I challenge anybody watching the show to post something with Doug Maclean and brown hair.
Well, there's pictures
just so we
of
can
me
have a feel for it.
There's pictures of me on the Red Wings bench in 1990 to 94. I was brown. I had brown hair.
Okay.
Brown hair, yeah.
Do you believe in the philosophy that you got to look after your star players? So we know that Pettersson and Quinn Hughes have 1 year left on their entry level deals, but they are eligible to be re-signed in the offseason on a long-term deal. Do you buy into the pressure that you got to look after these guys right away and get them on long-term deals, much like other teams have traditionally done with their superstars? Or do we look at it and saying we're at a time and place now where we don't know anything, so why not spend all the time that you can to kind of figure it out first
there's two ways
before inking them? Would that piss off your best young players?
I don't think it bothers them, but I think back to, and you talked about this extensively at the time, what could the Leafs have got Marner for a year earlier? I think you know the answer to that.
Yes.
What could they have signed Marner to versus the $11 million or whatever he got?
Yeah, they could have saved $2 million. The Leafs 100% could have saved themselves $2 million if they
signed a year earlier.
If they didn't wait as long for his. I think, Mac, that really, the difference between Marner with the Leafs and, say, the two young guys in Vancouver was that the Leafs didn't at the time think that he was worth $9 million or $9.5 million, and it ended up costing him close to 11. That was mismanaged. That was mismanaging your cap. That's all that was.
So how does Benning get Pettersson and Hughes signed for less than Matthews and Marner? How does he? And you know what? That is a monumental task. They are both franchise players in my mind. Matthews is a franchise player in my mind. Marner is a impactful, very close to I don't have Marner as a franchise player. I got him as a unbelievable impact player, which is a slight drop from a franchise player. But I've got these two guys in Vancouver as franchise players, and I don't know what they're going to come in at. But that is going to be a challenging deal because they're the cornerstones of this team going forward. And they got Besser, and they got a number of guys they've got to get signed here. Demko, when is he up again? I don't know. as a number one goalie.
I think he's got another year at $1 million.
Where does that go? I mean, so there's Jimmy's got some challenges, but look, you dream of having those type of challenges. As a general manager, you dream of having those type of problems because that means you've got a good team for the most part and you're ready to take a major step as a franchise. If you're a GM and you've got those problems, man, that's when you're really excited about your franchise.
Just to touch on Markstrom a little bit, I could see signing him, a sign and trade possibly. And it's something that Jim Benning would have to have a discussion with Markstrom and his agent in terms of understanding what could be in play. That's only if they like the contract. Markstrom knows today he could be gone tomorrow for a 7th round pick, right? Because that's what happens when UFAs go into their off season. The teams try to get an asset for somebody that knows isn't going to be around and give a team an early chance of negotiations. Or they could sign and trade him, Mac, if he gets the contract that he likes. And he might have a say on where he wants to go as well.
Yeah, because the complication is Seattle. Seattle's a major complication because you're gonna very, very good chance you're gonna lose one or the other. And that's why it's gonna happen. That's why I agree with you the other day saying he has got to make the decision right now, Jimmy Benning. This is not a decision he can carry on, Nick. Why you got this decision looming a year from now with Seattle. You've got the contracts of the kids coming up. You've got to make the decision now on Markstrom, signing or going, bottom line. And it's got to be done sooner than later for me.
We talked about a lot of the goalies available, a glutton of goalies we've never seen in the history of the league before. Good goalies, not all starting goalies, but solid guys that are needing jobs next year and a lot of teams that could maybe fulfill them. But if you're Ron Francis right now in Seattle and you've still got a year to play with, did Demko over 2 games, Mac, jump to the top of the list for Seattle?
No, but he's, to me, if you're Seattle, he's definitely a number 2 guy for you. He's definitely a number 2 guy. There's going to be some top guys available to him, to Ronnie, the same as there was for Vegas. So he's going to be able to make the right deal.
I think he's at number 1. I think he's at the top of the list, Matt.
Well, if he is, then
for growth, his age, for the thought that he isn't going to turn himself into a $7 million goalie in the next 2 or 3 years, maybe 4. I think he's at the top.
He should, but there's no guarantees. By the way, did I say something wrong? Because I just had a missed call here, and it says Turkey. It's from Turkey.
No.
And I know Turkey. I know Gerard
calling you a Turkey.
I know Gerard Gallant's nickname is Turkey here in Summerside. Turk, wherever else he is, but it's Turkey here. But this looks like it's a call from Turkey. I didn't take it.
The country are we talking about?
The country of Turkey is where it says.
Or they're calling you a turkey.
I would suggest not taking it, Doug.
I didn't take it. I let it go to a missed call. Anyway, I just wanted to bring the fans up to date on my missed calls.
For the chance that they'll reverse the charges, you would never answer that. Mac, would there be a bigger disappointment in terms of a team now than Colorado and Joe Sakic? This was supposed to be Colorado versus Vegas, not Dallas.
No, and you know what? I might be offering the 7th round pick and getting Markstrom if I was Joe. You know what? It just shows you, like, Grubauer is an okay goalie. For me,
he's a good goalie, Mac. He's a good goalie. He could win.
To me, he's a middle-of-the-pack goalie in the NHL. For me, he is. And you know what? Unfortunately, he got injured. They would have given them. I had them winning. I had them doing major damage in the West. I really did. And when Grubauer and Eric Johnson went down, it was a big loss, especially Grubauer. And then when your second guy, who wasn't very good when he came in, got hurt as well, it was lights. It was just so unfortunate.
Should
Joe
Joe
Sakic's
Sakic
done a hell of a job.
I know. Well, he has, but should he take a little bit of heat for leaving himself vulnerable behind a, as you deemed it, middle of the pack goaltender?
Francouz had a great reputation on the international scene, as he was an international star goaltender, Czech, a 30-year-old, but unfortunately he only had 40 games of NHL experience when he went in that, 42 games of NHL experience when he went in that the other night. I look at Tampa Bay, McElhinney. McElhinney is their backup. I look at the Islanders, Grice is their backup. You can't be undermanned.
Maybe I see your point. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be prepared for it. And typically, we watched Tampa when Bishop got hurt, when we were down there doing the Montreal Tampa series. Remember Bishop was hurt?
Yep.
I mean, it was devastating for Tampa, in that series. When you lose your number one goalie, and yet Habib Boulin's friend, Hudobin, has been really good.
He's been solid. If not spectacular, very solid. There's going to be some changes in Colorado. They're going to shop Zadorov. I think that he could have easily been gone, I think, prior to the deadline. I know they had interest in Petrie out of Montreal. But there's going to be some changes there as well, like there is every team. And they got hurt, Mac. Calvert out, Eric Johnson, Minute Muncher out.
Big time.
Donskoy, say what you will. Talented guy. Doesn't bring it every night, but it was disappointing for Colorado. And
I like I said, I like the job that Joe Sakic, Chris McFarland, and Bednar have done there. I really do. I like their group, and they're going to be a good team. And Nathan McKinnon, to me, wow. I mean, you've talked about him plenty, but wow, that's how many players bring you out of your seat shift after shift after shift, and we're watching on TV. We're not in the building. I mean, he's special. He's special. Plus the guy works at plus the guy, just think of this. He's a superstar in the NHL, and he works at Tim Hortons in the summer with him and Sid. Like who does that?
He's in good company with
He's
Sid.
in the drive-through working at Tim's,
We talked about Vancouver feeling really, really good about their immediate future leaving the bubble. Short term, you think Flyers, they underachieved. They were a top team in the East, unlike Vancouver we looked at in the West. Yet we do know there's a good future there, and there is tremendous upside. But man, oh man, that game 7, Mac, that was tough to watch. You wanted so much more out of this team.
Claude Giroux looked like a different player to me in these playoffs. For whatever reason, I've been a big Claude Giroux fan since I watched him play in Hull, in Quebec Major Junior League. He's been a special player in the NHL. He didn't have it in these playoffs. He really didn't have it. Couturier goes down. There wasn't many. I mean, look, Carter Hart is going to be a great young goaltender. Their defense is going to be solid with Provorov and Myers and Sanheim. They're going to be fine there. They need some work up front. With this group. Voracek is, he's getting up there. He's had a great career. Couturier is going to be a great player. Konechny's a good player.
They got to move on from Voracek or Claude Giroux. They've got to change that up.
I didn't like. I mean, their Hayes it was good and average, real good late, average a lot. Chuck Fletcher's got a little bit of work to do, and they're coming off a good season. I mean, their expectations, they were better than what people expected, but they'd be disappointed leaving it for sure.
I know joke around with you a little bit on Myers, but what a find, Mac. And to be a top 4 and maybe a top pairing kind of guy with Provorov, I'm sitting saying that's how you win Stanley Cups, or that's how you contend for a long time, is when you find these guys.
He was at the draft, okay? Philip Myers draft. And Doug Shepard, Clark McLean phoned every team saying, you got to consider drafting Philip Myers. 6'4", 6'5" defenseman in the Quebec League. Nobody takes him. The next year he's playing in the World Junior and he's a star. Prior to that, Ron Hextall invites him to camp. Calgary took him to their development camp, didn't sign him.
How do you not
Ron Hextall takes him to development camp and signs him right away.
How does Calgary miss that? How
does 30 teams miss him?
Yeah,
and right now, as a free agent, restricted free agent, he's a big part of the Flyers' future. I think he is, and I'm biased because he's a maritime kid who's paid his dues and did it the hard way.
So he's RFA.
He's an RFA, so he's got to be signed this summer. So Chuck is going to get this guy signed. He's got it. So it'll be fun to watch.
Well, could there not be an offer sheet? And you don't have to talk about 3 first-rounders. The money will never get up there, but you could make the Flyers think about something with an offer sheet that could cost, in compensation, I think a second and a third, maybe.
Well, this is a guy that's a right hand. He goes head to head against the other team's best. He's a right hand defenseman. He's got a shot from the point. He's a good Hey, how many people couldn't use him? I don't know. Many teams in the league couldn't use him. So it'll be. I don't know. I'm not advocating an offer sheet.
Listen, your first priority is to be an analyst, top analyst on Real Kyper at noon, not the son of the agent of Myers. You got that straight?
When I got fired in Detroit, Larry Kelly made me an offer to go with him to join his agency in 1994, 95. And if I'm not mistaken, he hooked up with Alan Walsh instead of me.
And the rest is history.
I'm kidding. I turned it down, but but it's always fun to see young guys that were overlooked that end up, all of a sudden becoming real players and there's a lot of them in the league.
You would have been way worse. You would have been way worse than Alan. You would have had tweets, pictures of that 10 years ago.
Not a chance.
Throwing gum at referees. You would have been so much fun to follow.
Oh God, I'm boring as hell now to follow. I don't know why people follow me. I'm boring. I tweet now is line movement retweets. That's all I tweet now.
And thank you for that, Mac. Who's not boring, but at times almost seemed strange during this tournament was Alain Vigneault. And I only say that because we saw some things come from Alain, and that didn't really kind of tend to his personality. And I found it strange that he went after a guy like Gallagher and his injury, and he questioned that. Then I think he questioned Kirk Muller, which I would think would be one of the last guys you'd kind of question on putting out a power play, which is probably in the playoffs. That's inept as Montreal's power play, and you feel kind of threatened over that. Then there was this whole thing about, I don't know what's going on in the outside bubble. I'm just in here trying to win, and I haven't got a clue what's going on outside. And I'm just sitting there wondering, man, just doesn't seem like the Alain Vigneault that we kind of knew all these years.
Vigneault has been a good coach in the NHL. I would say it wasn't one of his
pressure. Maybe the pressure of being in a bubble.
I don't think he was bubblicious. I don't think he really liked the bubble. I would dare say, who the hell would? I found the 14-day quarantine at my cottage tough, let alone being in a goddamn bubble. But anyway, I can't blame anybody for that. But look,
you are the least, you are the most unbubblicious person I know.
I know. Anyway, Vigneault's
A good coach. Yeah, a good coach that maybe
he was up against a great coach with Trotz, the way he's coached lately.
Yeah, I just found it unlike him.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Unlike him.
Yeah.
What else are you hearing? Give us some come on, there's got to be stuff. You're on the phone all the time.
I'm hearing that the owner in Washington is not happy seeing the Islanders go to the Final Four for the first time in 27 years. I'm hearing he's not happy with that.
So, you know,
he would be happy for Barry Trotz. He wouldn't be happy for the Islanders.
Babcock's name surfaced on Hockey Night in Canada. Our good buddy Elliot and Chris Johnson talked about Babcock.
Didn't you mention that a week ago?
Well, earlier I did mention not only Babcock's name with Washington, but the fact that, you know, even before Peter Laviolette got in there and even before Gerard Gallant got in there to speak with them, that Babcock had spoken to Washington about the job as early as January, February, Mac.
I know. But you said that last week.
I did say that last week.
Did they give you credit for it on Hockey Night in Canada?
I don't know, Mac. You should really ask them. No, I think they missed that part, but that's okay. They don't have to.
Did they confirm that Babcock can get out of his University of Vermont deal? Did they confirm that?
Todd Woodcroft, who is running the program,
will let him out of his deal.
Will let him in, but there will be a fee.
Yeah, compensation.
Compensation. Yeah. There will be compensation.
Yeah. But he brings him with him.
But it really tends to that experienced coach going in there and being a bit. I guess Ted Leonsis wants cages rattled, Mac.
Oh yeah,
in Washington.
No doubt about that. Yeah, I mean, look, when you win the Stanley Cup, and Ted Leonsis has been a good owner for the Washington Capitals. Nobody can say that he has not been, and he's been a progressive. He's been a progressive owner. He's been good for the league. I sat in meetings with him, Board of Governors meeting. He was a progressive thinker. I don't know him, but I certainly had respect for him in those meetings. He made a mistake with Barry Trotz, and now he would like to fix that mistake, and nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That he obviously by letting Reardon go, he's gonna hire the best coach he can, and he's gonna have to spend some money. The interesting thing, Nick, is, and I'm a little, is the league really gonna play next year? Are they really gonna play in January? And if that's the case, that the owners who are financially getting it handed to them right now, are they gonna put out huge dollars for a coach when they don't know if they're going to play? That's going to be tricky, man. I'm telling you.
Mac, I can tell you that there was a Board of Governor meeting last Monday. And I do believe that the conversation came up. And it's the NHL's wish list to start January.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure it is.
They've also, I believe, let them know that they can go as late as February or March, depending on the number of games that they wanted. So there is the wish list of getting as close to 80 games as possible, but there's also scenarios where you can go 65, or worst case scenarios where you can go like we have on a couple of lockouts, 48 games, 45 to 48.
I get all that.
But I will tell you that I had heard out of that meeting that the owners are not interested in empty buildings.
Well, that's my point. They cannot afford.
We're hearing the same thing.
Nick, they cannot afford to play with empty buildings. They can't afford to play with buildings 1/3 full. We talked prior to coming into this bubble that we're talking $1 billion, $1.5 billion in losses. I mean, come on. How many of these guys are sitting there saying, boys, we got to get this right before we go back on the ice? I don't mean get it right with anything other than we got to be able to have people in the buildings. It is a big decision, and I don't blame them one bit. So my question is, are you going to give a coach $5 or $6 million when you don't know if you're going to play? Now, you can always say, well, you don't get paid if we don't play, I guess. But
well, my understanding is that none of the players are going to get paid next year if you don't play.
No, I mean the coaches, though.
Same.
I mean,
they're under the same boat.
Coaches?
They're under the same boat. I probably think Babcock and a few others might like a signing bonus.
Yeah. Well, they want 3/4 of it as a signing bonus. But anyway, look, it's all about the leverage that the coach has, how bad they want them. I get all that. But at the same token, that is the number one question as we leave this bubble, as teams leave the bubble. When are we going to be back playing again? This BS of 12 bubbles and all that, come on. Who the hell is going back into a bubble after this has gone on? With all due respect, they've done a hell of a job, but who the hell's going back into a bubble? Tell me.
There's nothing bubblicious about that thought.
Yeah, you damn right there isn't.
I have a question for you guys to close the show, actually.
Why does that surprise me?
What do you think is worse for the NHL overall? No season whatsoever next year, or playing in a bubble, or reduced games, or these multiple bubbles? What do you think the worst case scenario is?
Are you asking us as businessmen or as fans? Because I've said this right from the get-go, from the first thought of playing without fans, is I'll take that over watching the news every night.
Yeah, how long does that go on for? That's my question, right? Like, I look at it from the perspective of any hockey is better than none hockey.
Paying the bills.
Here's my greatest wish for next year. A 60-game season and fans in the buildings. That's, to me, is my wish.
Even
60-game season, fans in the building, starting in January or
you're
February.
not getting 18,000 people in a building, Mac, but is it enough to get 7,500 spread out?
Quebec Major Junior League in the Maritimes just got approval to start with 150 people in their buildings, including players, coaches, team personnel. That translates that they've been approved to have 75 people in their 5,000 seat, 3,000 seat buildings.
What is that going to do?
That doesn't do anything other than make them go broke. So it's the same in the NHL. They've got to have fans. It's 50%, 60% of revenue are fans in the buildings. They got to do it to come back. Anyway, that's for guys with bigger paychecks to work out than mine, at least.
Well, we also heard on Hockey Night on the headlines, they mentioned Pierre Maguire in Arizona. I didn't mention that last week, so that's all on the boys.
I guarantee you he'll be a finalist. I know that. I don't know if he's going to get the job. Like, knowing what's gone on in Phoenix, that wouldn't surprise me.
Whether or not it's Pierre Maguire anywhere else, that's the easiest job ever in the next 3 years. You're going to strip it down. Ekman Larson gone. Every asset for sale for either draft picks or cap space or whatever. But I've got no first rounders. I got no second rounder. I've lost them. It's so easy now just to sit there and say, in the next 3 years is going to be horrible. So get used to it and hope that there's a building in 3 or 4 years. But I have no pressure to win in 3 or 4 years. I just have to turn all my assets into draft picks.
How do the players, the PA, the owners put up with this? I'm sorry. How do they put up with this? Because this is costing people a lot of money. Shipping $30 million a year out there for revenue sharing. The players taking the hit on escrow because they don't. I mean, I'm sorry, but enough is enough. And I don't care who gets the job, but I'm telling you, like,
wow, there's nowhere to go but down in Arizona for the next 3 years. I'm sorry.
God, I thought they
painted this picture.
I listened all this year how they were an up and coming franchise in the league.
No, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Don't buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Anyway.
Jordan, do we have any boosts for tonight's game? What's going on here? I think I've been on a bit of a roll here.
We don't have any set up. We could wait.
Nothing
for tonight.
We'll wait tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wait tomorrow. But I think I'm 6 for 8 or something.
Yeah, we are. Honestly, guys, Kyper is admittedly not a betting guy, but with the team that we're putting together and stuff like that, it's honestly in your best financial interest to just listen to what he's saying, because the offers that blitzbet.eu is giving, you're not getting elsewhere. So you could always log in as little as a loony. I don't have any loonies currently, but I've heard it's $1. So that's one bet, $1, one opportunity to win a Harley. So it sounds pretty fair to me.
It's pretty cool. I'm Saint Nick right now, giving away a Harley. I'm not the real Kyper. I am Saint Nick. You got that, Mac? And Mac, did you also know our Joe Holka is starting a live stream today at 3 p.m. Eastern on linemovement.com? How cool is that?
He said to me last night, as a matter of fact, I was out to dinner at a great restaurant in Victoria, PEI here. But anyway, the guy said to me, the owner of your company was on with Nick. So has he got a promotion too, Joe? Is he now own the company?
No. Joe's
okay.
Joe's the man here.
He's co-founder.
Yes. You're not happy with your title as a senior analyst? Not very sexy, is it?
I am talking to him about upping me to vice president of hockey operations.
We'll see what we got. We'll work on it. I'll put a good word in.
We can talk about it, Doug. We can talk about it.
Hey, Joe, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here, buddy. I'm always here.
I want the same title that Chyka turned down in New Jersey. That's the title I want.
Let's go with Bubbalicious head of hockey, or head of
Bubbalicious, head of Bubbalicious hockey.
With the most bubbles in the jam today, right?
Analyst with the most BS.
Joe, before we say goodbye to everybody, can you tell us a little bit about your show?
Yeah, sure thing. Going to be live every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Also going to be doing a show on Sunday mornings at 9:30 Eastern time. But the more exciting thing is we're going to be having like 4 or 5 shows on Line Movement as well, outside of just the Joe Holka show. So I'm going to be a busy man, about 8 to 9 shows per week. It's going to be a lot of fun, but NFL drives everything, right? So I'll still be around enjoying hockey. Most of the content for me is going to be football.
So can you help me and Mac on our Sunday picks now from here on in the NFL? Because Mac, we're gonna pool our money together. Okay, we're gonna make some money in the NFL.
We got you.
I like the sound of it.
Doug's gonna have to come over to the side of the analytics, I think, if he wants to get any info for me though. Football, like we gotta talk about some stats.
Loaded with analytics. It's nothing but analytics. I don't think you can handle it.
That's for damn sure.
Just listen to a little bit of it, though. Some of it might make sense. You could have won the Stanley Cup in '96 if you listened to a little analytics.
Yeah, but what if the only analytics that would have helped me win if Sakic and Forsberg were playing for me and not Colorado?
That's as simple as the analytics get.
Joe.
Yeah, thanks,
all right,
buddy.
Joe, we look forward to that on linemovement.com. Jordan, thanks as always for chiming in on our show. Mac, the Labor Day weekend's not over yet. You can still take the RV out for a spin.
No, I'm teeing it up. Jill and I are playing. We're going to play 9 holes at Eagles Glen at Cavendish this afternoon at 4:00. Just tee it up for 9. So just trying to get the rust off my game.
It's a good life for Doug Maclean out in Summerside, PEI, everybody. You can hear him Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Doug, thanks for joining us. Enjoy your 9 holes and your 3 bottles of wine, and we'll see you Wednesday. As far as everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in. Your subscription to our show means so much. If you've logged in for the first time, hit the subscribe button for us. Hit the like button, the love button for Mac, as he likes to allude it. But we had a terrific day today. We're starting again tonight in the conference final East, Tampa Bay versus the Islanders, 8 p.m. Enjoy that show, and we will see you here tomorrow on the Real Kyper at noon show. Okay.